The views and opinions expressed by the guests of Sasquatch Experience do not necessarily reflect the opinion of the hosts, sponsors, or affiliates of the Sasquatch Experience. As always, listener discretion is advised.
911, what are you reporting?
We got someone or something crawling around out here.
Does a legend walk among us, lurking in the forests of our world?
Did you see what it was? Was it a person or an animal or?
I can't tell. All I know is that my sensor light came on and I just happened to glimpse and see this thing running across the yard. A good-sized man or something looks like a man. I don't know what it was.
For over 15 years, we've talked with scientists, researchers, investigators, and witnesses, trying to gain insight and proof around the existence of this mysterious entity.
Jesus Christ, you better... Zia!
Hello?
Get somebody out here.
What's going on now, sir?
That son of a bitch is about 6'9", I don't know.
Do you see him now, sir?
Yes, I'm looking right at him.
Uh-oh. Okay, hang on.
He's right...
Is he in your yard, sir?
Yeah, God, he's big.
Okay, what's he doing in your yard?
He's looking at me.
Join us as we continue into the investigation of the Sasquatch Experience. Always like that with Henry May there at the end. It makes me... Henry's all special there. Good evening, folks. Welcome to the Sasquatch Experience, Monday, October 14th, 2024. I'm your host, Sean the Fort Chop Forker, joined with Henry May, Matt Arner, James Baker, and our guest tonight, Tactical Mike. Mike Ann from Tactical Bigfoot Research, longtime friend of the show, former guest. And I figured it was just time to catch up, gentlemen, is what it was. I wanted a nice light show tonight. And nobody makes me happier most times than Mike.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're glad to have him on the show tonight. I mean, Matt, just to catch folks up, we did post the report from our research, our latest research endeavor. I have not got the photos uploaded yet. I'm sorry, folks. It's been a little challenging to try to get them in a way that makes sense. And I like the pictures to tell the story. And so that's what's taking us so long. And then also, Matt, if I can get the scan of the 3D print, we might be able to put that up there too, if that's possible. So just things that we're working on here to get that up there. But they did get the initial report that was written by you, edited by me. Nothing for context. Everything was included the way it was supposed to be. It's just how Matt and I like to do things. He writes it formally, and I just post it and clean it up. So that's where we're at with that. Matt, what do you got to follow up on from their trip there over the weekend?
So I actually went back out there, and I took the one snowmobile trail, the one that was to the west, and hiked that in probably about 2.5 miles. Got some video. Hopefully I'll send it to you and we'll put it up on the Patreon. Found so the interesting part about that, I didn't see any further prints. But one thing I did see was there was a ton of bear scat that was right along the roadway. And it was funny because when I finally put the video together, it actually was going in the opposite direction I was. So as I passed by the first one, it was literally, not to make this rude, but it was steaming. And
it was fresh and poopy.
This one definitely was. But as I walked further along the trail, you can tell, it had been there. The other ones I found had been there for a little bit. But I found coyote tracks. I found, obviously the bear sign. I did not see a lot of deer sign up there. I did put a camera up there. And, I'll go back in a couple of weeks and check on that. the forest through that area was, as you went back a little farther, it was probably logged out within the last, I'd say 5 to 7 years. So they have the regrowth going. So it's a very young forest. There's not a lot of mature hardwoods back through that area. But again, I was just along the road, and to each side of me, to the north and to the south, were probably a couple miles each. Definitely to the west, we're looking at something like at least 15, 20 miles to the to where the one highway is, 155, and then to the east, maybe about 4 or 5 miles to 872. So if I were to go one way or the other and get through where they did those the logging operations, I probably would get into mature hardwoods. The other thing too is it's extremely thick getting through there. So even for an experienced person like myself, it would be an all-day endeavor just to get down into some of those hollows out there. So definitely an interesting spot, and I'll definitely be up there quite a few times, and until the end of the year. So good spot.
So do you think that the less deer and more bear sightings sign is maybe have anything to do with the seasons? Because I know that, like, my fiance works in an old folks home, and there's like 6 deer that hang out there. But when it starts to become fall, we get like 27 of them because they start impacting out of the hunting areas into, old people have bred.
Pressure, human pressure does put a lot into it, but up there's no human pressure. It's very, very few. I ran into one other hunter, and he was literally 200 yards from the parking lot. So, I got in pretty deep, and those deer don't,
okay.
If they were up there, they wouldn't, they're skittish anyway, so they're not going to, come up to us like they wouldn't here in the Poconos. But generally in the fall, though, what happens is you start the rutting season. You had in the early fall, late summer, early fall, you get what we call bachelor groups of buck. So you're going to see, and I had this on my trail cameras all throughout August. Where you have, maybe 4 or 5 buck, male deer that are going to run together. And then as the cold starts going, and as the hormones start going, and they start getting like that big testosterone, then they start spreading out. The does, on the other hand, they'll come more together and basically form a herd. So that's probably what they may be seeing there. You're not going to see a lot of buck unless it's at least for now, it's going to be a mature, alpha buck that's going to be with those does. But I said, yes.
No, go ahead, Matt. Finish that thought, because I was going to jump into another point for Mike.
Yeah, and the one thing is too is that regardless of the rut going on right now, it's the start of the rut. Our witness had said he hasn't seen these deer. He hasn't seen the turkey. He hasn't seen the elk, come through there. Every year, he basically kept track of, hey, in October, I'm going to see a lot of deer down by the apple tree. I'm going to see elk out here by the field. Turkeys, they come down in the morning. He's not seeing anything there.
Right.
So the fact that we do have some predators out there, we
have something out there.
Yeah.
And what was fascinating about it is we were up at 2,200 feet, Mike, and this is what I really wanted to chat you up with, because you've been out to that area with us. Generally, not this area specifically, but in the roundabout. How far is that area we had them from this?
The two areas are probably maybe 10 miles apart, 15 miles apart, and It's just that, Mike, if you remember, there was that little 2-lane road that, the highway, where this is on the far side of the highway. This wasn't on the same side that we were on when we were out with Alex.
I've already done it. I've already muted myself, and that little 2-lane road. Drive down that road to the campsite. Yes, I remember this.
I know
very well.
I know. Yes.
5 miles an hour to 55 miles an hour. Yeah.
Right.
Signal.
Yes.
So what was interesting, Mike, is this guy told us we're up at 2,200 elevation. He's seeing nothing up there. He told us whatever is up there has driven them down to the lower elevation. As soon as we hit 1,400 feet elevation, what did we see, Matt? Deers out the ass. I mean, we had deers, a group of almost 20 deer in somebody's yard. Elk, turkeys. We saw a couple turkeys. All that wildlife that was absent from that 2,200 feet down exactly where this guy told us it was. And I found that to be pretty. I think that's what kind of got me in the mode for the weekend, Matt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In the night we were up there, I mean, we ended up there with you guys there in the spring, and it was snowing that day. So, I mean, there were still deer moving around. We still had other stuff. You guys had elk and everything, and God knows what I had coming through, when I got up there. But, when you say 10 miles, folks, it's 10 miles to the nearest gas station, and it takes you over an hour and a half to get to that 10 miles because, as the crow flies, it's 10 miles. Yes. It's not the roadway is 10 miles.
Correct.
When you guys told me, I'm like, it's like 3 hours from my house. Yeah, it was 45 minutes to get to the top of the mountain after we got there.
Yeah.
It's absolutely the craziest, air. I mean, it's when you talk about, the Northeast, and, I just got back from the Adirondacks, and I mean, there's more the population was more up there than what you have in that area that I saw. Going through that area was it's crazy. I mean, it's a twilight zone up there.
And when you guys came through there, the one thing I wanted to especially put through to Alex is that was like the big weekend because that was opening day of trout season. And so all the camps, most of the camps had people in them. And we're going through there, and it was a shock to hear one car going past us, and otherwise, everyone's kind of either at their camp or, like I said, even with a large influx of people, it's not a large influx of people like you would think going out to the Adirondacks or going to the Poconos in the fall here. We're talking, we just had, 30, 40,000 people in Jim Thorpe this weekend. Up there, you were lucky if you had, I don't know, maybe 2,000 people between two counties, in that particular area.
Yeah, I think it was closer for me to get gas to go back into New York than it was to get something in that area. But man, beautiful. And I'm still kicking myself. I downloaded my drone, and for some reason the photos didn't transfer over. They're still locked on my drone. I yet to figure out all the drones I have at work and everything like that, and transfer files, no problem. This stuff is locked in the cache on the drone. And just to be able to, the video I have that's still on that drone is absolutely amazing, that I have to figure out how I'm going to get off. So,
there's an easy way to do that. You take the drone, you make sure it's pointing at you proper. You grab a toaster, you rip the toaster apart in front of it. Okay. And then you pick up a screwdriver and go, give me the footage. Okay? I'm telling you, every time. Technical stuff will work for you if you threaten enough.
Here I really thought he had a solution for the problem.
I knew where we were going.
Yeah.
I knew where we were going.
I try, folks. Once every couple weeks.
Jigsaw that didn't work right until I showed it the screwdriver, and that was
he didn't work. He didn't work for the Geek Squad, did he? There,
no.
I do now.
I tell you what, guys, this is what we deal with every couple of weeks, but it's a good crew. So, Mike, I mean, the area up there, we got to get you back up. Some interesting things happening, but what's happening in your neck of the woods? Since we've talked last, but out in the field, have you gotten any new sighting reports, or what have you been up to?
So, I ran into you guys quick, Pennsylvania at Eric Altman's PA Bigfoot Camping Adventure. Met some great folks down there, some new folks to the field. I know there's a couple of them listening tonight. We kind of went over some things, some sound stuff, and the sounds with folks, getting them interested. And I found a whole new sound database. I'm gonna do some selfish plugs, but the guys over at Foxborough gave me this great little Squatch collar, and I've been using it everywhere for my demos. So if you guys that saw it, but Foxborough has a great sound. It's actually the Squatch setup. It's the Squatch Pro from Foxborough, but they've got a great sound library. So everybody that's been talking for years about what sounds are hearing in the woods like that, go over, and that's a new sound area. I've pushed, some of the other sound apps like iHunt Calls and everything like that. But and that's great for your phone. It's just the Fox Pro guys have really got a nice set of organic sounds, stuff that's live from the field, and pre-programmable. So if you're doing that kind of stuff, and they got some Bigfoot stuff, and the guys joke about it. And we, got to talk to them quite a bit when we were down there about some sound stuff. So new tech for me. Hey, Seth, what's up, brother? Using that, added another piece of tech too. Like I said, going to sounds again. Bake, I think you and Sean, I showed you this bird weather puck. Another thing that I started using the week before we went down to Eric's event. It has 2 audio recorders built in, sound and pressure. But the nice thing about it is there is a whole network worldwide with these things. And if they're live and they're public, you can go and look and see what they're listening. So it's not only birds. This thing was originally, this is, you guys know I've been pushing Merlin and, bird.net for years. This is that AI technology on steroids. Wow. It runs, I don't have to run off my phone. I can run on my computer, and I can go pull my particular unit or other YouTube channels that are watching like all the bird, the nesting things, like you'd have a camera on like the big guy behind me or something like that. Those sounds, they're checking the AI. And my particular unit, I got a hold of the owner of the company, and it's set up to look for wolves and big cats, coyotes, dogs, engine sounds. So now if we go up to the top of the mountain and it's got GPS, I can set that up there and let it record the entire time. And it's doing an AI processing of those sounds that are out there. So now, all the owl sounds that we've heard for years and some of the other stuff, it'll give me the barometric pressure. It'll give me the timestamp. It'll give me the audio so we can look visually and listen to it. And if there's other stuff in the background, you can hear that engine noise, that car coming through, that overlap. I'm still going to run a regular recorder, but this thing is giving me a stamp so I can see those other things that are there. So like you guys know I'm wearing my hearing aids. If I don't have those in, I miss some of those lower tones. All those wonderful years of diving and shooting, my brains aren't great anymore. And Christy, I know you're in the audience, and please don't beat on me too bad.
So
my co-host, so
go ahead, Bake.
So does that run whether it's connected to the net or not? Is it independent?
Does not. It's independent. So it's got its own SD card and it's running. And as soon as it gets back on the Wi-Fi, it uploads. But technology-wise,
because you were saying like barometric pressures and things like that. I didn't know if it picked that off the web or if it picked it off the. Because a lot of times we're in areas where there is no signal.
Yep, there's sensors in here, but that's one thing. Technology is a wonderful thing, folks. Big thing I've been pushing. You guys are asking me what I'm up to. Is pushing the first aid, pushing the technology, having that satellite communication device. When I did go up to this location that Sean and Matt are talking about, they told me, yeah, we got great signal at the campsite.
Mm-hmm.
And from the time I turned off the road till, I don't know, what it was, about 1/8 of a mile.
So you heard banjos.
Well, yeah. No, I don't think I'm hearing banjos. It was either off the cliff or whatever. But I ended up having to use my MiFi, my mobile hotspot, so I could transmit to Matt. And actually, we're using Facebook to message. I couldn't even get the cell signal. I think I actually sent a text message, to some friends and family, like, if I don't come back from this, I do have my camping gear. And, I'm trying to text Alex and everybody else. And they're like, we got a big fire. You can see us from the road. And I'm like, no. But having that, I carry that technology with me so I can upload. I bought a microcomputer so I can look at these things. Like the microcomputer is a Windows 11 computer, no bigger than my phone. So I can look at all that data while I'm in the field. So technology has really become a big thing for getting that information out there. So it's one of those rocking things to make sure getting there. And I have lots of technical difficulties. I can't talk half the time, but you guys know that. So that's where we run. After PA, I ended up going up to Whitehall. And just before I went up to Whitehall, we've talked about, talking to witnesses and doing the paint sample thing. And
Mm-hmm.
Matt, you and I have talked about using it for law enforcement and everything. Well, I've been so slow on these things, and there's a brand new project coming along. But as I got ready to go to Whitehall and I'm searching for stuff, now I went and got wig hair samples. So now I can have the witness actually pull the hair up. Well, Coles ended up wearing this at Whitehall for a little bit, he put it over his head or whatever. But the other thing we can oh jeez, it was he had a earring, he's kind of wearing it at the back of his hat, like a rat tail. We're not gonna get into it. But if you're talking to witnesses, you again, like we said, go to the box store and get your paint sample, get your paint sample chart or your paint sample. But the other thing you can do is you can send somebody to the local box store or the local grocery store, and if they're going to go get their hair dye, you can find out what brand and what color hair dye it is. And most of that stuff, again, is going to be industry standard wise or nationwide. You're going to have that same color. So sending somebody out in the hair, using the hair samples instead of the color charts, they're actually seeing a physical hair. It's not just that color. So like these are all marked for different colors for picking these wigs out for this brand. So the same thing, going to pull out and look at, Clairol or L'Oreal's hair colors or something like that. Or if you got a friend who's a beautician that might have one of these, wig sample things running around. If you're out talking to witnesses, it's great. And, that kind of came into Whitehall. I ended up talking to a witness who's a veterinarian that had another biologist in the car. And they said, we were out there. We saw everything. I could see the gentleman was physically shaken. They had another family member that kind of pushed him up to tell his story. But that was out of Vermont. So I kind of referred him to Alex and Steve just because they're over in the New Hampshire and Eastern New York side. So collecting the data has really become a big push. And because of that, I reached out to Scott at Bigfoot Mapping Project. And Scott is now going to add another layer to his questionnaire where you'll actually be able to go in and click on the hair colors. So we're just kind of developing that section of his website. So you'll be able to go and put your sighting in and click on something, because when we all look at colors, when we look at it, depends on our monitor settings, or if we have a visual impairment, we're all going to see colors different. So we're going to see those browns different, those reds different. But having the ability for somebody to go in and say, hey, on my computer or in my, if we're in person and we're doing things, we can go ahead and click on that. So in that witness sighting, it's no longer going to be just, it was red or it was black or it was, a cinnamon. And Pat, who's in the audience, we got to thank him. Pat was the first witness I talked to. He's the first person I sent to go get this. I mean, you got Carrie in there too. We're going to give her another shout out. She is the first person to 3D scan. So this whole thing about the 3D scan, she called me one day and said, I don't have any casting material. I'm in, Massachusetts. I'm in the woods. I'm not near a hardware store. She's the first person I told to download the app and go ahead and 3D scan. So that was the first scan that was out there.
Hey, Mike, that's what we had to do. We were caught with our pants down and no casting materials. And so we're like, you know what? Let's 3D scan this bitch. Let's go. And we did it.
And it's the networking, finding the trackway. Bill, when we were at Monster Fest together, I've been using a couple of different scanning things, Polycam and some of the others, and you got it, Care. Bill shows up and he's got WideR on his phone, and I hadn't used that app. I tell folks all the time, depends on your phone. Go find a new app and communicate with everybody you're with. That WideR app, I stood there as Eric sat there with his cast, and I was able to freehand it, not putting it down, and the pictures we got. I watched him walk over, and Dave Wickham had some stuff. He 3D scanned those. We did a whole bunch of other things, and they were just down in an area where Joe Schneider, who passed away last year, and coming up on his anniversary, they got some scans. They're probably human footprints, but man, the scans using that WideR were absolutely amazing. So again, sharing that data is so important. So yeah, we got up in the Adirondacks. Looked around for a little bit, got to talk to some great witnesses about some stuff. It's been a kind of a move around lately, and it's trying to put our friends together and collect data the best we can. I talked to Darby Orcutt from North Carolina State just before I got on the call with you guys. That information will be coming out soon. His web hosting person, his server and everything, it was in Western North Carolina. So prayers to all those folks down there. He directly wasn't involved, but some of his tech was. Our folks that are out there hunting in that area, it's reaching out to those folks that are friends they're there. So, just want to put a little quick shout out. If you have Bigfoot friends in this field, and they know they're hurting, kind of help them out a little bit. That's kind of where things have been. So.
Well, when it comes to networking, I don't know if anybody does it better than you, Mike. And I'm not saying that because you're our guest. I'm saying it because I believe that firmly. You really do connect people and you connect resources quicker than anybody I know. And it's really been a true kind of godsend to Matt and I as we've really been putting some of this research endeavors together. So thank you for that.
Well, I appreciate you guys, the other thing I really been pushing with this Bigfoot thing and is the benefits of Bigfooting. It's the friends we make, the folks that we meet across. And when stuff really falls apart, it's those folks we go to. Matt and I work in a field that occasionally we need to talk to somebody, and we need to talk and do things outside of work. I know there's a lot of people watching tonight that I've reached out to at different times that, and explain it. This is your way of getting out and, escaping your day to day. But, it's how I keep my skills up for work, and I'm looking at the audience here right now, at least who I'm seeing who's commenting in the chat. We've got folks right now just popped down from the South Pacific, and you guys should be talking to them soon, Lisa and Juliet from down there in the South Pacific doing their investigations. Jen's on there, in her connection and introducing me to Joe and Carrie and Christy's on here. We go through life. Paul that's on there, Bigfoot got us out, got us healthy, got us hiking again. It's one of those things that the topic is there for you guys that have had your witness sightings. That's why I keep doing it, trying to find an answer to what you guys saw. And if we can collect that data, that's the most amount of things. Natalie, it's in there from Florida. She found out firsthand that the community's there, and we can help all of us together and stuff. I'm going to give a shout out to people I know, because it's everybody I talk to on a daily basis. You guys that get spammed with all the memes that we get at 3:00 in the morning because I'm bored. But the technology, it's there. And if we can share that technology, we can get stuff to pop through. Let's see. See a little message in there that Patty's got some other sightings over there. And again, where we're going, for me to go to Eastern New York to the Adirondacks, the Hudson Valley, and see those guys over there, or come 4 hours down and see you guys. Oh,
we have to ask this question from our buddy Seth Greenlow, Mike.
So,
shed some context on this for the listeners.
Yeah. Okay. Let me get some apple cider here. And so, I had the privilege during the pandemic to join Seth and Alex and the Small Town Monsters crew and Mark in the Adirondacks to film On the Trail of the Journey. And about 4 days before we got ready to leave, I found out I had a kidney stone. And not only one kidney stone, I had 2 kidney stones. So it gets better. So we go through, we're filming, and Alex decides we're climbing a mountain. So I'm climbing a mountain, and I am dying, and I can't figure out. I'm like, I've had stones before. I'm not. It's we're gonna get through this or whatever. I'm gonna be able to try to pass the stone on the trail, and that didn't go so well. Well, come to find out, not only did I have the 2 kidney stones, but I had 3 hernias.
Oh God!
So I'm tracking, and you guys have been in the woods with Alex and these guys, and he's like a mountain goat up the freaking mountain. Everybody else is up there. I got a freaking fire sale going because my entire backpack popped open and I got stuff just falling and I'm just dying. And Seth has a beautiful photo where in video section where it says like there's nothing like a pandemic to be the worst shape of your life, and he pans, and I don't think he knew at the time, but there's my overweight body at the time trudging up this hill. And we get done with this hike. Yeah. We get done with this hike and we go to dinner. And he goes to his favorite burger joint. And what do I order? I order chicken because I'm trying to be healthy. And myself and Andy Matsky both end up like food poisoning from the chicken. And it was just the craziest.
Coming out all sides.
So
Jeez.
My man, he gave me a privilege of going there and getting to the top of Hadley Mountain and looking out. And that view from Hadley is absolutely amazing. And, I made sure when I came back from Whitehall, which is a tough, Whitehall's a tough one for me because last year I lost my mom as I was leaving for Whitehall. I got the message that she was in the hospital.
Oh.
And at that same time, we had Joe Schneider, who I'd been out with up here, doing, that I met at Whitehall. And Joe was diagnosed with cancer 2 weeks after my mom. The last time I talked to my mom was at Joe's house. And Joe was still on his bed, still telling me he saw something. And I actually went with his wife the other day to scatter more of his ashes. There's a little. So again, the connections we have in this community is there. Yes, Christy, you're right. And yeah, I stopped in the middle of the filming to come off the mountain to do our show and to go back up to the mountain with Steve and those guys. And it's, again, I'm just going to truck through. If I got to be there, but yeah, I passed the 2 stones, got the hernias back and get back in the woods, it's one of those things, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
So,
I echo Scott.
So,
what a story, man.
It's there. It just seems like every time I'm with those guys, it's like, oh God, what next? But yeah, it's great. But again, know your first aid, folks. Know who to call. Know where your nearest hospital is. I mean, it's all important to know how to cook when you're in the woods.
Well, it's become a big thing, Mike, and I know it's the passion on that has grown tremendously, especially from you and Matt and our buddy Larry Beans Baxter. We're putting together a little thing for the listeners eventually at some point the residual this year for safety. And I think we need to spend more time, not just the scary Bigfoot stories that everybody wants to hear about when they listen to a podcast, but the real inherent dangers and the real what you need to do in case of stories or situations when they happen. Like, we want folks to be prepared, Mike, when they're out in the woods preparing to take on some of these endeavors. It seems easy in theory, right?
Well, I mean, the thing is, I've got stuff spread all over like I always do because I'm not in my studio. Moved into the spare room so the dog can be running around. But, your first aid kit has everything you need to go ahead and start your stuff. I mean, you know me, guys. I always come prepared with something. But, in your first aid kit, you've got your gloves. You've got a mask, probably. You've got your tweezers. Those things that you need to start your collection stuff is already in your first aid kit. You guys have seen me in past shows talk about evidence flags. Matt's talked about evidence flags and how we collect things. You have your tongue depressor in there that you're going to be able to use to turn around and support yourself. But you can take the white tape, medical tape in there and make little evidence flags to mark out that evidence. You're going to need the paracord. So put the paracord in there. It's cordage that you're going to need to tie stuff up. It's going to allow you to do that circle search, to get out there and keep moving that stuff around. So having that first aid kit, it's already there. You're already going to, as Elton Brown, Food Network says, you don't want a unitasker. You want stuff that's going to help you when you're out there, and that's years of doing that search and recovery stuff from been working underwater and like, hey, we'll put a name on a rock, throw it in the lake, and go find it, And I still, to this day, I don't know how the instructors got us to do it, but go out and do circle search patterns underwater and in zero visibility. And here's the rock, with your smiley face on it. It's the craziest thing is to go,
I can't stress the importance of being prepared enough. And usually what happens when you run into an incident is when you aren't prepared.
Yeah. Yes.
Right.
I mean, little things like me, like popping my camera off, having a tracking guide or having, I had the other one up here. Yeah, it is. The trees and the plant ones, so, of course I'm green screening, so let me do it again. Knowing what plants are out there. If you need to eat, enough friends over the years that have been on Naked and Afraid and stuff. And you guys know I hang out with that crew of wonderful folks.
I'm going to die if I have to eat in the woods. I am so bad at plant identification. Even when I try, Mike, I'm just awful with it. You could just kick me in the head as I get close to that mushroom. Fork or no, boom.
Yeah, I'll find that one mushroom that'll feed me for the rest of my life.
Yeah. I mean, bake there, I got my 1,000 calories in, but, I think there's a great Survivor man with Les Stroud eating like one of the, I think it was like a beech nut, not a beech nut, but it's a beetle nut or something like that. And next thing you know, he's puking and hallucinating. And I'm like, oh, that's what I want in the woods. I have a friend that spent 22 days, in the Ecuadorian jungle because he got separated from his military unit, and listening to him talk about surviving, in the Amazon, with bot flies eating stuff, crunching on his head while he's walking through the woods. And Ray's story is awesome because you guys want to talk about Mapinguari and stuff like that. He and the guys in his unit had a Mapinguari sighting, and I've talked to those guys. But, being able to survive.
A Mapa what?
A Mapinguari, the South American Bigfoot.
Oh.
So they had a run-in in South America, years ago. So I've talked to 3 people from the unit, and they've all confirmed their story and everything like that. So
Mike gets around, folks. He gets the stories. He shares the info with us. He does. We got a couple sightings, Mike. I'm trying to right now. I did a presentation last week a little presentation in Catawissa, Pennsylvania, in Columbia County, where we've had some activity in the past. And one of the guys in the audience was a state trooper, but he wouldn't get up and share his story. In fact, it was put together by the magistrate judge, who asked me to come and speak at this event because he liked my presentation and at Gwen's event in Illersburg. So I said, yeah, I'll come out and do it. And he was hoping the guy would come up and tell his story. And he didn't tell his story. So we're still trying to get him. And what I'm thinking is if he may not want to tell it in a large group setting, but if I got maybe you and Matt around, he might be a little bit more comfortable. Like, hey, these guys are legit in what they do. You know, they may take me a little bit more seriously. So that's where folks, again, I'll go off on a tangent. Having people of various backgrounds in your research network really help. It makes a big difference. Some people are just comfortable talking to people of similar backgrounds. It happens, especially when you get into the professional fields, right?
You know, you guys are making a point there, is that people from all different backgrounds are so important for this field. You know, we've had, a lot of conversations offline and stuff like that, and at different conferences and over dinner and stuff. And that artist is going to show us the Pantones. They're going to be able to tell you the color, the hair flow. You're going to talk to, again, the beautician's going to be able to say, well, it was a fine hair, it was a kinky hair. That's what I want to hear. I want to talk to that newspaper person or that sanitation worker at 3:00 in the morning that's out, because they know it's there. That cop going for his donut at 4:00 in the morning, because that's the only thing that's still open. They're seeing something, but everybody has something to give to us. I want to learn electronics. I'm going to go find somebody with an engineering or electronics background, because I can think about it. I can't build it. I can't, I'm going to find somebody that's going to help me put that technology together. Is it, streaming a thermal camera for 24/7, which I have figured out how to do that now, or get that data and share that data. That's the most important thing. Finding somebody like Scott with Bigfoot Mapping that does GIS for a living. So he puts a map together. We have a map together. I mean, I've used that Bigfoot Mapping project where Google Earth hasn't worked. That's where it's got to be, where we got to go. So,
well, and that network's growing, and I have, not to put a teaser out there for folks, but I've got a first round of info from a specialist who works in the intelligence field about some of the preliminary data we've sent him. So I'm excited to see what this is going to entail and where we move on from step one. And I'm sure you'll be really interested in it as well, Mike. We'll put together a conference call later on and go over it. There's some interesting things there. We don't want to put it all out there because, like I said, every week we do a show. We put the master's class to how to hoax out there. If folks listening, and it's just collateral damage to what we do. Wanting to go out and talk about Bigfoot, every time we talk about it, we make it easier for folks to go out and try to pull the wolves over us. However, the situation is some of us are getting really good, and the bullshit detectors are pretty high.
The thing is, you guys have been around a lot longer than I have on this, and you guys have seen, and I know there's a lot of new folks listening tonight, is you guys have seen the videos and the pictures that have been around for years that do that 7-year cycle. And now we're going to add AI on things. And what is that doing? All that is doing is going out and data mining, that information that's already out there. And so, yeah, we're going to start seeing a lot of that thing that's there. And, the YouTube channels have kind of cut back a little bit, since the pandemic and everybody's gone back to work, but there's still that recycle with, the monetization on TikTok and some of the other things to get those hits. But you folks got to come to you guys, Bake, Henry, and Sean, that you guys have been looking at this stuff a long time. It's reaching out to Culsey because, you guys have been around for a long time. Being a member in NESRA and talking to those old timers and stuff like that, I got to see it with Dave McCullough there at Whitehall, and
I love Dave McCullough.
Yeah, but those are the guys I got to go out in the woods first. Folks that have been doing it for a very long time. And there's the new stuff is out there, the technology's there, but you guys are my my go-to when I need things. And if I need news articles or something, I'm going to Sassy and there, Carrie, because she's got her background, as a librarian, and knows how to search that data. Where, I can break things, like I said.
Oh, it's amazing. Some of the recall, though. I was with Stan Gordon a couple weekends ago now, and we're sitting around shooting the shit, having a conversation about some things, and just stops me for, you got that half right. And then he starts going into the story again. Like he can instant recall in his mind that, like Henry can, just an instant recall of that report of that story. And he just, and folks, I don't mind getting the record set straight for me by Stan Gordon. That's a privilege. You know, I'm getting to hang out with Stan Gordon all weekend, and he told me I'm wrong. I'm going to love every minute of it. Because it's important. You know, it's important to be right in those situations. And, you know, he shed more, actually, in that conversation, he shed more light on the one report than I ever actually knew beforehand. And then, ironically, as I'm doing that report in Catawissa, I talked to another person who was involved in the same damn sighting. So you talk about that connectivity and how it happens. It's so bizarre.
That's a show I want to see, Sean. Henry, Stan, and Paul Bartholomew together. And rest of us
brain power. That's too much brain power for one TV show.
Yeah, but I've been in the presence of two of them. Henry, you and I haven't been able to sit in the same room yet, but I mean, I've been to Paul's library. You know, I've managed to look at prints with Stan, you know, live in the field. It's, I want to see you guys. You know, that's something. And you know, the two cops, and we'll grab Larry and we'll sit back and bang our head. Because, you know,
listen, I just bring it all together. Yeah. That's all. That's what I love. I facilitate these guys. I'm just a fly on the wall then when that happens. But I'll ask questions. Like, I love to get these guys pumped up full of questions. And I mean, we've had some great adventures because of that. And that's what it's about. Somebody asked me last week, like, you've spent 30 years of your life doing this. Why? I just wonder how much less my life would be if I didn't end up in this somehow. Like, I've learned so much about people. I've learned so much about the wilderness. I've learned so much about myself and my own capabilities. And it brought me snacks and connections with, you know, people that I'm glad that I got involved in this research. And it's been a hell of a ride. And Baker, I have to remind him, he's always like, oh, I haven't been this nearly as long. You realize you've been doing this for almost 20 years now, JB.
Yeah.
Like, you got to make a decision here, whether you're going to be a skeptic or a believer. You got to shit or get off the pot, man.
Like, I haven't seen anything. The problem is everything I see is secondhand. And it's not that I don't believe. I believe in the stories of certain people that link with the evidence. And, you know, you made a point about AI. And I was watching Star Talk the other day, and Neil deGrasse Tyson said AI is going to get to a point where it's going to be so believable that even the person that believes exactly what they see and hear will not believe it and start doing their own research. So I think AI, it might not be right away, but eventually it's going to burn itself out because people are going to be like, this is so ridiculously perfect. There's no way it's true. And then they'll read a book. You know what I mean? Like, and that's where I think, you know, if you think about it, is like in the 80s and then the 80s to the 2000s, where after the Patty film had gone through and everybody was like making their own movies and whatever, the people that like were like, well, I see it, but this has got to be BS, you know, started to read about it and started to realize these things and started to go to OBC and started to go to all these places. In a way, bad videos made Bigfoot more popular. I mean, we laugh at Jack Link's jerky, but it puts butts in the seats. You know?
Yep. Had that same conversation. Even shows that we might not all find desirable, they get people interested, and because of that, give them an outlet to feel like they can report. Because here's the big thing. Here's the formula. Without people being involved and people having sightings, there's no Bigfoot. Like, we need these sightings to come to us so we can collect the data, so we can be more efficient with our time, our energy, our money. None of us are getting funding for this. It all comes out of our own pocket. So the better the witness encounter, the more we can actually, use that collective data to be smarter in deployment. And that's what my ultimate goal is right now. Mike, you've got, partnered with Scott from the Mapping Project. And, we're working with our friend that is, I think, soon to be retiring from the intelligence agencies. Like, it's all about deployment. It's all about getting data so we know, looking at it, and so he can put us in the position. It says, okay, Matt, okay, Sean, okay, Mike, this is where you need to be based upon what the evidence is telling us now. Like, you have your greatest opportunity to get a sighting or to have some sort of evidence collection at this time. That's my total focus right now, is collecting this information to get it to people that can do something with it. And Matt, how long have I been on that? I've been on that project since 2012 is when I started that.
Yep.
You just, Mike, just happens to be able to point me in a direction with people that are better at it than I am. And that's what I want. I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I'm good at rubbing elbows with the smartest guys in the room.
I just know not to shut up. I mean, that's my, my
Touché,
thing.
my friend. I love it.
Or is Jen's busting my chops about my cookie? It's probably my cookies in camp. I don't know if you guys, I baked some of those off in Ohio.
I wasn't there.
And jeez. And I always, in front of calls, I'm always cooking these great. Ohms Meals makes these great sugar and chocolate chip cookies. You can bake right in there, so nice hot when you're out there.
Right.
And they're
just
fresh cookies.
Just chocolate chip, right?
Oh yeah. So they chocolate chip, and then they got sugar ones too.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Tell me
two of
about
them purperfect to open it up. So again, we go back to the bait thing. Who you're going to leave as bait. We're going to leave my co-host in the woods as bait. Are you going to make it the old pork chop necklaces? Or Chuck's chili when you're out there.
Chuck's chili.
Yeah. Again, things you learn in the woods. A couple of bottles of salsa, some ground beef, and you got a couple cans of beans. You got some of the best chili. All those seasonings. Again, that out there, you're bringing animals in, you're bringing other squatchers in, a lot better than those pheromone chips that Doug put together years ago for Monster Quest. My God.
I'll never get that smell out of my nose. No. Ever.
Oh, man. We had some from the original Monster Quest like 4 years ago. We were up in the Adirondacks, and somebody pulled some of those out. I didn't even touch them, and I still had to stink on me for like 4 hours home when I got out, and it was just, oh my God, the most disgusting, nasty. Yes.
I never wanted to touch one because once Eric said, "Hey, Forker, smell this," and I stuck my nose right over the container, I to this day, I still get a whiff of it. I think it was awful.
Alex had some of the new ones. I think he had like one or two. We were in Florida one year, and I'm like, okay, it was bad, but not like those ones that have been sitting around for the last 20 years.
Dr. Bambinex special juice sticks or whatever they were, the chips that you have to
the orange chips. Oh,
yeah,
Jesus.
Not a good time, folks. Not a good time at all.
But then again, hooking everybody up is just great. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Henry.
Yeah, I had a quick question. What kind of equipment, as far as for recording, do you use in the field?
So I'm running the puck. I've got two ATN thermal cameras that I run that take still and video. They're kind of working at like the 720 range with the thermal. I got one of the 640 units and a 340 unit. I've also
what's the cost on the puck?
It's like $2 something. It's I love it because you can hook. It doesn't just have to go in the stand. They got a backpack for it, so it locks right in the back of the backpack. I've got a couple of small Sony recorders. I had a cassette recorder, but I gave it to Eli and Alex to decipher some of Paul Bartholomew's old tapes. But I don't think they could figure out how to use a cassette recorder because they were born before they stopped using them. So the rest of us know what they were, but
that's something that's starting to pop up now. Not to jump off onto a whole nother subject, is the discussion. We've had this discussion before, but as other people are starting to have the discussion now, do you think that there's something that analog catches that digital doesn't?
Well, is it that, and is it some of the technology? So yeah, going to the old garage sales and see if you can find an old tape recorder, because even some of the new stuff has got, some, you guys would know better working in the tech industry that, what's out there, but buying a cheap recorder. And I had this talk with with Ron Moorhead about, you know, what did they use? I mean, that was old tape that they got those recordings on. It wasn't digital, you know, even, you know, talking with Tim Shaw, a big paranormal guy, you know, some of the recorders he has are some of those old Sonys and stuff like that, you know, that are coveted because they don't have the filters that are on there. When you get some of the good, you know, new, you know, digital recorders, they're there to pick up our voices and not all the other things, except for cicadas. They will pick up cicadas. You know, it's the only thing I think they filter. But yeah, I mean, throwing a good old fashioned Memorex tape like you were making in the 80s, you know, I don't know, high school tape or whatever, you know, your party
mixtape. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's just it. You've got it. I mean, it's probably going to be like if you're re-recording over and over again, like your VHS tapes. But again, what are you picking up on that? And I still live listen where I'm putting a recorder in, I'm running. I have two of the small Sony speakers that go out either side of my recorder, and then I'll run my headsets. Not so much now that I'm usually wearing my hearing, like heavy duty hearing aids. I bought like hunting ones or something like that. Jen's right. The KISS method, keep it simple, stupid, is the way to go.
So do you think some of that has to do with the waveform that it records on? I mean, digital is a square wave compared to just a wave for analog, and I always thought when they condense the wave, you always lose some signal. Like for instance, like MP3s are great, a CD's okay, a cassette's pretty good, but if you hear it on a record, a lot of times that record has the best possible sound than all three of them put together because of just the way that it produces the sound.
Bake, you're gonna make me spend money. Twisted Sister just came out with their 40th anniversary of Stay Hungry on vinyl. I might have to go find a record player. I know it's completely off topic, but like
no such thing as off topic.
3 times today I've seen that record come back up again, and I'm like, that was the first cassette I ever bought.
Because you mentioned it in front of Alexa, didn't you?
No, I happen to like it, and those guys liked it back today. But again, you're right. I mean, is that the way to go? Getting an old phonograph and putting that old cylinder out there and see what you pick up. You know,
because the way the waveform works, the thing is like analog might be antiquated, but the fact is like I used to sell cell phones when cell phones were bag phones. And part of the reason why the bag phone worked was because of the way the signal in the towers work. Right. Our new phones are great. Don't get me wrong. They do all kinds of happy stuff, but the towers have to be closer now because the signal doesn't move as quickly.
Right.
You know, like Motorola walkie-talkies, really, honestly, the only thing slowed them down was the curvature of the earth. Yeah, I know shit. Sorry. You know,
this is why we need your background or somebody else's background that has it. Again, I'm a generalist. I try to pick up as much as I can and try not to buy 47 things to find out.
But now you're buying a photograph.
Thing was the way to go. Yeah, but again, buying a photograph, buying that old crank, you know, would wax. You know, yeah, would an old wax photograph.
The Twisted Sister, it would be worth it.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, it's what do we have here? You know, I know Larson's in the audience from Central Florida Bigfoot. I mean, Matt is an old film guy, you know, and you know, Jen's putting that up there is, you know, why haven't we got some things? You know, why are those old things? I'm in Kodakville. I'm in Kodak and Xerox, Bausch. Those companies were in my hometown. I mean, that old technology. You know, what are we getting? You know, how many times I've told everybody, you go from your color and switch it to a negative. What are you seeing on the backside? You know, we've got some things there. What colors are, again, we're going back into colors, but we need somebody that's a color specialist to look at things because our human eye sees different things in different setup. What are we hearing in the sound thing as well? I mean, just talking with my, you know, now I have to use artificial hearing to help me a lot of times. What are my settings at? What is the audiologist going to put something in? I may not be hearing what you're hearing.
Well, it happens all the time.
Because all those years of damage.
Right? It happens all the time. We're out in the woods. Hey, did you hear that? Well, no, I didn't hear that. Well, I'm not crazy. Well, no, you just don't hear the same frequency I hear. You know, it's all about, you know, identification, honing in, and you know.
And
Go
again,
ahead,
do the
Mike.
TV shows, do they hear anything? And, oh, did you hear that on TV? Well, no, they're using a microphone to pick up your voice because it doesn't make good TV if all you got is cracking rocks and stones
Right.
and stuff and brush. You know, and how is that little squirrel sound like a tractor trailer instead of that bear that you
So-
don't hear sneaking up on you in the woods? I'll shut up for a minute. Sorry.
No, you're good.
This is
That's
what
why we
like.
bring
Get
on
you
people
excited.
to talk.
That's right.
But that's just it.
But
What
you
we can
make a
talk
lot of valid points, and like I've always said with technology, is not always getting the new stuff makes it better, you know, because like you have a lot of situations where, you know, sometimes a cheap piece of technology will work way better than something. And like I asked you about the item you had, I said, do you need the internet to use it? Because honestly, some of these areas the internet doesn't work. You can have the greatest program on the planet, you know, that scans everything and I'll tell you what the dirt composition. And sure, if you're connected to the web, you know, otherwise it's a rock, you know.
Mike, how many flashlights
There's
you got?
one right here. There might be another one over here. I have lost count on how many flashlights I have. There's probably 7 UV lights in my car at one time. There are definitely 2 that do multi-frequency, red, green, white UV headlamps that do red, green, UV, blue. So yeah, in my view right now, there's 5 flashlights where I'm sitting in this room. There's probably another 5, you know.
There's 4 lights. There are 4
4
lights.
4 lights.
So Star Trek: The
All
Next Generation.
I'm just talking flashlights that I can see just by picking my head up.
That was a nerd moment from Baker there, Mike. That was a nerd moment.
Anytime somebody tells me there's 5 lights, I always go, there's 4 lights.
There's 4 lights.
Because I tortured Picard and he kept saying, you know, I'll let you have some water and you'll get a living. Just tell me how many lights there are. And like, it's 4 lights, all right?
Well, anyhow, guys, we've reached that point of the show where we have to say goodbye for
Magic
this
hour.
week. It went by quick, and we didn't even have a Bigfoot bullhorn because Vance, folks, has sent some good thoughts Vance's way. He's got some family stuff going on. Won't get too personal, but just send good wishes Vance's way and hope everything's going okay for our brother there. We'll have a show again in 2 weeks. Guests to be determined as we get closer. But Mike, thanks for taking the time and jumping on with us. We really appreciate it, man. It's always good to see
Yeah,
you.
thanks,
I
Mike.
love it, guys. I appreciate you guys.
You're ever at a conference and you need a cable, Mike probably has it.
Mike probably has
That has happened a few times.
that or zip
Has
ties
happened to
or
me.
push pins, or Mike's usually the guy that bails you out. Baker, you had a pretty good post you made today, and I'll share it with everybody. It was kind of inspirational. It says, do crackheads say I can't get high today because I'm broke? No, they make it happen. Don't let a crackhead hustle harder than you. And that's Baker's wisdom.
I think I stole that from Amy Boo.
Baker's wisdom for this week.
Oh,
Don't
I
let a
did not
did
crackhead
invent that.
anybody see Amy's live? I just before I totally with Adam.
No.
No, I missed it. We love it.
Go watch it. You'll be tortured for the rest of your life, but go
We're
watch
gonna
it.
watch it after this, folks. Henry, you take us out.
is it-
No, Baker. Stop.
Okay.
Behave.
Hey, you gotta ask. You know, hey, you never get to see the sights unless you ask. All right,
Okay.
you know.
Henry,
Giggity,
that
giggity,
means we got it.
giggity.
Good night, everybody.
All right.
Henry, take us
I
out.
gotta go.
Y'all be good and be good at it.
All right.
See you next time.
You've been listening to Sasquatch Experience. Please rate and review where this podcast has been consumed. To share your experience, visit us on Facebook, our website, or email us info@sasquatchexperience.com. Keep on squatching.